stop, think, breathe. This is what's going on really in your head, not that lot. Just having someone who doesn't judge you for how your brain works just really helps. A lot of people, if they're like me with ASD, get quite anxious about, it can seem silly, but your brain goes in on itself and things soon become mountains rather than molehills. So my name's Holly, I'm from Nuneaton, I'm 43, just finished a degree in psychology. I've got a 10-year-old daughter who's also ASD and 18 and 16-year-old sons. Accessing the service was a very positive experience. It was really nice to be with people that understood. It came at a time where I was lacking in confidence. I'd given up work. And it was just nice to be with somebody who didn't judge me. It's hard to word, but because ASD is such a spectrum and everybody has such different needs, I struggle with light, but other people like it quite bright, and then I don't like noise, but some people are quite loud. So it was trying to make friends with people who you seemed similar with. So it took a few weeks to sort of get to know people and know who you might get on with. The peer support group was really good because it gave us a regular space to meet that we all became familiar with. Apart from like the layout of tables and stuff, it didn't really change. And as people with ASD who struggle socialising, for me personally, it helps to have something to do while you're trying to socialise. So the fact that there were a lot of different activities put out for us to do was really helpful. So I remember playing Uno, and that got quite a few people involved that might have sat there otherwise struggling. So it was nice to see people getting involved that hadn't before. If we'd have all gone and sat in a coffee shop, we wouldn't have known what to say to each other because that's how we work, our brains work. So it was nice to have that regularity. Some people were into making real changes for people with ASD, and some people were more accepting and just trying to function. You know, that was their main criteria, just functioning in the real world. And it was just nice to be with these regular people that you got to know that also struggled like you, and you could bounce your struggles off each other. So if one of you had a bad week, you were able to say, to sort of put their anxieties into context, and then they would do the same to you. I think for me it was the first time sitting in the education sessions that I'd thought about how neurotypical people might see things, because you're not aware of your differences necessarily. And I think the one key thing was how much people with ASD take in that neurotypical people don't. You're playing the film of what people would see and hear as you're walking down a normal street, and the differences in what an ASD person saw to a neurotypical sort of cleared up for me why being out and about can be so exhausting, because you're noticing so much more. And I think it sort of gave me an awareness of what I was dealing with at that point, because you just think everybody's looking at things in the same way as you. That was sort of my main takeaway, I think, trying to understand how I was different and coming to terms with that, I think. The impact of going to the support sessions, it did make a big difference. It gave me something to look forward to each week, and the amount of people that I came into contact with that understood helped as well, because it made you feel like you weren't quite so alone. And I remember talking to a couple of people who'd done degrees and stuff, and I was like, well, if they can do it, maybe I can. I know my brain's not quite in the right place for work, but I always enjoyed studying, so I enrolled at university and started my psychology degree, and it was the best thing I've done because I learnt so much more about how brains work, not just ASD brains, but normal brains, and the problems that can go wrong just for normal people as well as us. And it built my confidence because I'd always loved studying at school and learning, and I got to go back and do that again. So it did really build my confidence. People I've met at the peer support groups have been really good. I've kept in touch with a few people, knowing that there's someone there to message if you are struggling a bit. Because my husband's brilliant, but he doesn't necessarily always get particular things. So if one of us is struggling or needs a bit of help, we just post on there and everybody throws stuff in the mix. You know, you got to think of it from this point of view or that point of view. It just makes you feel better knowing that someone's there and can think about it from a different perspective, because I think a lot of people, if they're like me with ASD, get quite anxious about, it can seem silly, but your brain goes in on itself and things soon become mountains rather than molehills, and sometimes it's just nice for somebody to say, from the outside to say, look, just stop, think, breathe. This is what's going on really in your head, not that lot, you know. My mental health is a lot better than it was. I still couldn't cope without my medication, but having people that I'm in touch with that, if I am struggling, understand why I'm struggling, it diffuses mental situations before they can get too bad. You do get lost in your own thoughts quite a lot, and sometimes it is hard to sort of get yourself out of a spiral, because unless you've got ASD, you don't know how all-consuming it can be at times. So having those people that do understand, you can help them as well when they're going through a bad time of it as well. It's about being there for each other. I would definitely recommend the service to others. For nothing else, then it will get you out meeting people and talking to people. We're very social creatures, or we might not realise it. Having someone who doesn't judge you for how your brain works just really helps.